Hello everyone and welcome to the first tutorial of GH dialog system. In today's video we are going to set up our first basic dialog. To do so we need three things. First, we need a canvas to show our dialog. Second, we need an NPC to interact with. And third, we need a player which can detect our NPC and send the input. In this tutorial I will be using Cinemachine and the new input system, which is way easier to set up our inputs. Let's take a look on this scene I just set up. First, our player enters the NPC hitbox area, and then I press the interact key. In this case, it's the PlayStation X button or the enter button. Hello there! Are you the yellow NPC? Yes, I am. Have you seen the legendary dragon? Yes, I have. No, I don't. First, let's pick yes, I have. Yes, I have. Whoa, that's awesome. I think it's time to us to say goodbye. And then you can see the bubble on his head turns on again. This means he still have some dialogue. So if I press again, I think it's time to us to say goodbye. As you can see, the dialogue repeats. Now I will do the same dialogue again. I just restart the scene and I will pick the second option this time. No, I don't. No, I don't. Well, that's sad. Better luck next time. And if I press the interact key again, I think it's time to us to say goodbye. Now, let's create our first basic dialog. First, we need to set up some tags. To do so, we go to in the inspector, click on tag and click add tag. So we can add those two tags, NPC, talk and actor list. We also are going to use the player tag later on. Our system requires to detect our player. Now, with our tag set up, we need three components to make the system work: a canvas, an NPC, and a player. Let's start with the canvas. I set some prefabs to make this easy for the tutorial, but you can customize and create your own canvas later on. Let's select the dialog canvas located on the prefabs canvas folder and add to our scene. As you can see, a new game object appears on our scene, but there's no dialog or canvas showing up. That's because our canvas is off and should be stay like this before we start our game. But for now, I can enable to customize it on my own will. Let's open our prefab and select one of the game objects inside and press the key F on the keyboard. And I'm gonna set to 2D mode so I can see better my canvas. As you can see, we have our user interface right here. First, we have our text that will show up our dialogue, the name of our NPC, we have an image to show our characters, we have a continue button that will show up when the player can interact to go to the next dialogue, and we have some backgrounds like this paper, and we can customize all that just by changing our assets right here. We can change, for example, this one to the triangle button, so you can customize this interface the way you want. Now let's get back to our scene again. Let's press F and go back to 3D mode, and once we finish customizing our canvas, we can hide again. Now let's take a look on the bottom of our canvas. We can see a script called Dialog Manager. If you click on the Dialog Manager, it will show you all the scripts on the dialog system which will be used later on. Some of they are optional and only used for certain situations on our game. As you can see, we have some elements here. which corresponds to our game objects inside our canvas. We also have some extra customization for the text typing effect. We can adjust the speed of the typing effect and also add some typing sound if we wish so. If the character speed is set to 0, it means the dialogue will be shown instantly to the player. I will come back to those options later on. Now it's time to create our first NPC. I also have some prefabs to make the NPC easier. But in this case, I'm gonna to just take the model of the NPC and add the scripts later on. Now that we have our NPC, first I'm gonna to make the prefab be one packet, and I'm gonna to add another game object, an empty game object. And I'm gonna call it trigger. You can call whatever you want. Now we are going to add the NPC talk tag on the trigger game object we just created. And we are going to add a box collider. We are going to enable the is trigger option and make the trigger right on the front of our NPC. The box collider on the trigger game object is to detect if our player is in the position to talk with our NPC. Now let's add some scripts to the trigger game object. First, we are going to set the NPC script. Each NPC in our scene will have one of this script. Now, let's drag the dialogue canvas, which contains the dialogue manager script, to our dialogue manager field. Just click here and drop here. We can leave the other fields empty for now. Now let's add another component to the trigger game object. This time it's the dialogue trigger script. You can have multiple dialogue trigger scripts on the same game object, but for now we are going to only have one. As you can see, we have the dialogue trigger with some options here, like the dialogue type with questions, look back, and dialogue. We have the ID, which is an integer number. We can customize these, but for now I'm gonna to leave it on 0. We have messages. This is where we are going to type our dialogues like hello world. We also have some fields when I created a new message. First let's focus on the actor ID. As you can see, we have actors right here, and I'm gonna add 2 actors, and the first one I'm gonna call player, and the second one I'm gonna call yellow NPC. And now I'm gonna set some pictures for our characters, and we can use the actor ID to just take the player and the picture we want. We just need to count on the index. So if you want the yellow NPC, if player is 0, yellow NPC is 1, we're gonna set it here to 1. We also have the options to add voice acting, method ID, which is going to be used later for triggering other scripts created by you, like inventory system and stuff like that. And we have ID to skip, which is used for skipping some dialogues in some cases. I'm gonna explain later. We also have this button, which I'm gonna explain later. But for now, I'm just gonna set hello world with the actor ID at 1 and the actors. Now we must set up our player. The G8 dialogue system comes with a third-person prefab, ready to work with the dialogue system. We can find this prefab on the prefabs folder and player. As you can see, the prefabs right here. Just click and drag to our scene. But since each game is different, you will need to change the player controller to detect the NPCs in our scene. So let's check the script player controller dialog. Double click it and it's going to show on Visual Studio. As you can see, we have some variables with comments here, like the game object dialog manager, the choice manager, and finally the private NPC detection. We need those for the player to work with the NPCs, and we have some code on the update method, like the movement animation, the player velocity to control the clipping. We also have the movement input and the jump input. So as you can see right here, this is the code we need to work with the NPCs and the G8 dialog system. Since we don't have the choice manager, we just gonna hide this one and focus on those two right here. This is detecting the NPC if our dialog type is on dialog. I mean this one right here. Okay, just a minute, it's compiling. Okay, it's detecting if our trigger dialog type is on dialog or on questions. So basically what you need is this script and this one. This one is to disable our player from walking and moving with the wrong animation, just for that. As you can see, only for animation purpose. We also have some scripts on trigger enter, on trigger exit. It's just to detect the NPC talk tag. If the player enters, it will set the NPC detection to the current NPC he's interacting with. If it leaves the trigger, it's going to set to no. So if you press the enter button and it's no, nothing will happen. And finally, we have the dialog input just here. The other scripts you can see here, it's movement animation, stop animation, movement input. Since you are creating your own character movement, it's probably gonna be different. This doesn't matter much on the dialog system. Only matters the dialog input and the choice input, which I'm gonna hide for now because we are not using. So this is our dialog input script. It's detecting if our player is pressing a button on the new input system. As you can see, I have interact control.action.trigger. Once the player press this button, it's gonna trigger all these. It's detected if the NPC that is no or not, and start everything. You just need to basically copy these and paste on your script, and pretty much you're done. Now back to Unity, we must set up our player to be followed by the Cinemachine, and we need to set up the dialog manager right here. First, let's drag the dialog canvas here, and pretty much it's done. The choice manager doesn't matter so much because we didn't create it yet. We also need to set up the tag for our player to be player. The G8 uses these tags to locate the player and the NPC. And finally, the Cinemachine camera, we just click on the third person player, set to follow. I created an empty game object inside of my player, as you can see here, just to make the Cinemachine look at this point. And pretty much it's done. Let's play, let's check if everything is okay. As you can see, the camera is following our player. We can walk. Okay. And pretty much that's it. Let's set up our player right here and press enter. And as you can see, the hello world is right there. It's showing up. If we press enter again and once more, it's always show our message we just created. So we have our first dialogue. We can add more dialogues, just add another one. This time I'm gonna set actor ID to 0 and say, hello Mr. This is a tutorial. As you can see, we have the tag B here, which will make our text different. Unity supports rigid text tags. We can have many options to customize, like color or italic and stuff like that. I'm gonna set the link on the description to all those tags you can use it on the system. So let's play again. Go closer to the hitbox, press enter. Hello world. Hello Mr. This is a tutorial. As you can see, it's not the typing effect showing here. We don't have that. So let's customize a bit. I will increase this slider right here and let's check again. As you can see, the text is appearing character by character. Hello Mr. This is a tutorial. And there's no sound on our dialogues. In case you want sound, this is very easy to do so. We can add a source, audio source here. Just add and just drag and drop here. You can customize the audio source, but I will leave the default values for now. And also on our resource folder, I have an audio folder with dialogue sound and hello voice. For now, I'm gonna use dialogue sound. So let's back to the trigger. Oops, dialogue canvas, dialogue sound, add here. So now when I interact with my player, excuse me, with my NPC, and press enter, as you can hear, there's a character sound on our dialogue. And pretty much that's it for this tutorial. I will add more tutorials about questions, about how to make this NPC not interact again, the bubble over the head of their NPC. I know my mouse it's looking wonky for the camera. I mean, it's working fine with the controller. As you can see, I can interact easily with the controller. And pretty much that's it, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and I see you on the next tutorial. Bye bye.